Okay, hopefully people can hear me. Boom. How's everyone doing? Let me know if you can hear this, if you can all of that. As you can see, I am not in my usual location. I am in a little town called Lac La Biche, which means Lake of the Dough. It doesn't mean what you think it does. But yeah. So hopefully everything is working-ish. We're going to play with the lighting a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if that's better. It's more annoying to look at. Today was a day. Somebody says I need some art. This is not my space. This is like a classroom. I am using it because the place that I'm staying has Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi. And the free Wi-Fi is acceptable, but it does not handle a live stream, not even a little bit. So I did some speed testing on it, and it was like, nope. So we're not doing that. So instead, I got permission to do a thing here, and we're gonna do it. So now also, usually or often I set goals of like having a little drink. I can't do that here for two reasons. One, classroom, and two, I gotta drive after this. Like I gotta drive. So that is not going to be a thing. But we can still set some goals. And so goal number one is gonna be, I think, we'll do a little tour of where I'm staying. And by virtual tour, I mean I'll show you some pictures because I'm not actually at the place I'm staying. I'm at the classroom. So we got there were basically two things to talk about today. First is the second half of the cross-examination of Avram Mack. And I was not super thrilled by the first half of the cross-examination of Avram Mack. I was like, it's very okay. It's very, very acceptable, very fine, very, yeah. But not really what I was expecting to see from Reddington. Because Reddington is very good. But the thing is, he was clearly building. And so it's like, okay, he's going to get to the better part of his, better part of his cross than, tomorrow. Well, Monday, which is today. So today we got to see the second half of his cross. But we didn't get to see Mack. Mack was on a camera, which, we're getting a touch of an echo. Do I have the ability to fix an echo here? I don't know what the echo is, but hopefully it's not going to be too much of an issue. We're going to jump in. We're going to see Mack. Mack appears on camera. And I thought that was a bit weird. So here we go. Yeah, somebody says Temu Studio tonight. Yeah, that is what I'm stuck with. Is the echo getting worse? Why is the echo getting worse? How could the echo be getting worse? Oh, is it because of the room? Fixed? Okay. Well, here we go. Here's Mack.
Represented by Attorney Kevin Reddington. The Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Sprague and Assistant District Attorney Shannon Buckingham.
All right. Well, thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, members of the jury. I hope everybody had a nice weekend. And so what we're going to do, as we have done so many times before, we're going to ask you those questions. Then we're kind of going to go over what today's schedule is, and then we'll get right back to the trial. So the first question, has any member of the jury read, seen, heard, or overheard anything from any source about any aspect of this case that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? Last question, is there any other serious matter of concern bearing on your service as a juror in this case that anybody needs to bring to my attention at this time? Again, thank you so much for following those instructions. What we're going to do from the schedule today, if you remember on Friday, we were in during cross-examination of Dr. Mack, who testified Friday afternoon. We're going to return to the cross-examination, and the only difference is Dr. Mack is going to be available.
I have this at 1.5. We're going to take this down to 1.25. Also, somebody says it sounds like I'm in an empty room. I'm in a big empty room. Like that is the thing. I'm in a classroom. So it is a big empty space.
Available by Zoom here. We've had a couple other witnesses, so you all kind of know how that's going to work. So we're going to finish the cross-examination of Dr. Mack by Zoom. Commonwealth, if they have redirect question, and then we're going to get.
You know how pissed I would be if I was Reddington right now? That they're like, oh yeah, we're bringing him back by Zoom. I'd be like, I didn't agree to that. What the hell? Why is that happening? How come he gets to dodge my cross by going to Zoom? Yeah. Also, we're gonna possibly race through this, possibly not. I am feeling a bit under the weather, and my chair is awful. So we're gonna push through. But here we go.
Continue with the Commonwealth's rebuttal. All right. And so just to kind of go back as far as the procedures that we followed, so the Commonwealth presented their case. Then after they were done, the defendant presented their case. And we're now on to the Commonwealth's rebuttal. All right. And when the Commonwealth's rebuttal is done, we're going to move to the next portion of the procedure process, which will be the closing arguments and the legal instructions. All right. So that comes after the Commonwealth's rebuttal witnesses. So that's kind of where we are at this point. And
so I just want to say, I kind of expected that I would be seeing closing today. I was like, all right, we're going to see a close. That's awesome. We didn't see a close. Spoiler alert. We saw an ending, but not a close. And I'm going to have some thoughts about that because holy fuck, what happened today was ridiculous.
So as we go through today, I'll kind of keep you up to date in regards to the schedule for going forward. All right. So that's where we are. So at this point, we'll get Dr. Mack on the screen, and then it'll be Mr. Reddington continuing cross-examination. Yeah.
Dr. Mack, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony and the evidence you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending between the Commonwealth and the defendant at the bar shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Attorney Reddington.
Thank you. Sir, how many times have you testified in courts on the issue of criminal responsibility?
I would estimate 1 or 2.
So if you estimate 1 or 2 times, would this be your 3rd time?
By that estimation, yes.
Okay, so
I was already like, wait a minute. We're estimating 1 or 2? Is he unable to count? Because it's 1 or 2, and like Humpty Dumpty here can't tell the difference between 1 or 2. Okay. We're off to a great start. This is the kind of thing that tells you that a witness is going to be difficult because, yeah. Oh, and I see people saying, can I hide the crawl? Yeah, I think I can. We'll do that. There we go.
So it's not by my estimation, though, it's by your estimation, and you would know better than me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the 3rd time in your career that you've testified on a criminal trial on the issue of lack of criminal responsibility. Is that correct?
I know there are other times that I've created opinions.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm not sure how many.
I'm just asking about criminal responsibility. That's it.
I'm talking about criminal responsibility. And I know there are other times I've created opinions, but I'm not sure that I've testified about them
Okay.
in the courtroom.
So my question was simply, how many times have you testified in court?
I mean, he's welcome to stay at my house, except I am not at my house. I don't know what this is about. Bob wants to join the stream? Okay. I'm down to send Bob a link. Give me a second here. I will shoot Bob a link. Assuming I can get into my Twitter DMs here. Okay, Bob now has a link. So, all right, here we go.
On criminal cases regarding the issue of lack of criminal responsibility, and this would be your third time, right?
That is my recollection.
Okay.
Okay, so can we talk about something else? I have my laptop camera. That's what I'm using to film this, although I do have a microphone here. But I've got the laptop camera that is filming me. And the laptop camera is on a banker's box, like a literal banker's box. And so the reason why is that the camera is actually right at my eye level or a little bit above. Uncle Fester here, he's got his camera at like neck level. And so we get to see the nostril cam, we get to see the chin cam, we get to see all of this shit. And it's not doing him any favors. Also, the lighting is so awful. It makes him look like he's been dead for a week. So,
And you have testified in court on behalf of various governmental agencies on other matters in addition to criminal responsibility, correct?
Yes.
And you are operating under the umbrella, if you will, of the Park Dietz conglomerate of a lot of expert witnesses that, as I understand, would parcel out cases to different people. Is that right?
There are times that I do cases through Park Dietz and Associates. I can't speak to how many experts they have and exactly how they, as you put it, parcel things out. But over the span of my career, there have been times that I've done it when cases have been presented through Park Dietz and Associates, and times that I've done it through other entities. As I discussed the other day, I had a role for the state of Maryland, and at times, and in this case, there was a criminal responsibility trial that I was a part of when I had a role for the state of Maryland. So going throughout my career, it's been multiple different entities.
You've also testified, since we're talking about it, in the state of Pennsylvania, right?
What's your question?
You've also testified, since we're talking about it, in the state of Pennsylvania, right?
I believe I have.
Was that at Park Dietz, or was that you individually, or one of your other entities?
You'd have to specify which case.
Commonwealth versus Torres, 342 MAL 2021, Pennsylvania.
So the witness he's trying to dodge, right? He's like, oh, I don't know which case. It's like, do you not know if you've ever testified in Pennsylvania? Because, I mean, how many cases have you testified in? Come on. This is a witness who's being a weasel, and he's trying to weasel out of this. He's like, you'd have to specify which case. I mean, no, he doesn't. It's a yes or no question, right? Have you testified in Pennsylvania? Then he's like, you'd have to specify which case. He's like, here's the case. I am the wrong lawyer to play that fucking game on. Game on.
Can you cite that case again, please?
Commonwealth versus Torres, 342 MAL 2021, Pennsylvania, where the court held that that would be Avram Mack, was apparently certified only in child and adolescent psychiatry. You lacked forensic certification to testify in the field that you were ostensibly going to testify in. Does that refresh your memory?
No.
Did you testify?
Do you not remember getting hammered by the court? That was a bit of Reddington testifying there. And, but he's getting the point out.
Did you testify in Commonwealth versus Torres in Pennsylvania?
I don't remember.
How about Commonwealth versus Carter in New Jersey? Remember that one?
No.
Do you recall that the court held on?
Do we really believe that he doesn't remember? Do we really believe that? Or do we believe that he's going, I don't remember, to get out of this? I mean, I think he's lying. I think he's a weaselly sack of shit. That's my take.
On an appeal that you used an approach that fell below the standard of forensic practice?
No.
How about Federer LeBron versus the Secretary of DCF, 710?
Do you really think that you wouldn't remember the court saying that about you? Like, do you really think that? Come on.
Fed Third, 1202 in Florida. You remember that case, I'm sure, right?
I do.
And in Feder, there was a gentleman, Mr. Federer LeBron, who was a Navy veteran, who was a single father and had a child. And he was a member or a person that was able to get benefits from what's called TANF, T-A-N-F, Temporary Aid to Needy Families. You remember that?
I do.
And the state of Florida decided that because needy families consisted of either minorities or drug users or people that would not be reliable to work in the confines of working underneath the TANF, so they wanted to have blood testing and drug testing of all the people that were temporary aid to needy families, right?
That's your conception of what was happening with that.
Well,
You see, what Reddington is doing here is basically going, you were on the side of evil, right? This is prejudicial, but I would fault him more for it if it wasn't for the shit the Commonwealth is pulling and getting away with. And at this point, this witness is basically like, it's like, do you remember when you lost your virginity? And he's like, nope, no idea. Never heard of it. Don't know her.
that's my conception from reading the case, sir. Do you agree, sir, that TANF is an acronym for Temporary Aid to Needy Families?
Yes, it is.
Do you agree, sir, that this gentleman, Mr. Federer LeBron, was a plaintiff in a lawsuit against the state of Florida?
Yes.
Do you agree, sir, that it was in federal court?
Yes.
You agree, sir, that in federal court, the court held that, in fact, you were unqualified to give an opinion that you attempted to give, saying that it was perfectly appropriate to test by way of urine or blood people that are benefiting from the TANF program, because your testimony was that they belong to a class of people that I guess had to be tested. Right?
I don't agree with your conceptualization.
Okay. So the court ultimately ruled that...
It's like, I don't agree with your characterization. He's like, isn't it true you're just absolutely fuck awful? And yeah, it's going to be... And the thing is that I would certainly be going with a little bit of, so you don't remember this, you don't remember that, you don't remember the other, you don't remember this other thing. What do you remember? And I mean, the other side will object when you're like, what do you remember? Because it's an objectionable question. But, it's like, you're not remembering a lot of this.
Your argument, your testimony on behalf of the state of Florida, the government, and you indicated that TANF benefits, applicants for TANF were people that were involved with drug use, violence, and higher rates of suicide. Remember those words, those three words?
The testimony that I provided.
Do you remember testifying, sir, about the people that are the beneficiaries of the TANF program, people that need aid because of...
He's trying to answer a different question than what's asked. And Reddington is like, nope, answer the question I asked you, please.
Needy families are people that should be tested by way of blood or urine. And your argument, sir, was because they are of a class that would be more likely to commit a crime or have suicide or drug use. Did you testify to that?
That is not the way that testimony or that report was presented. No.
Okay, so your answer is no. Let's keep it that way. Your answer is no. So you recall, sir, that there was an appeal, and in fact, on the appeal, it was determined that, yet again, you were not qualified to offer a relevant opinion because, number one, you never studied the TANF population. Recall that?
No, that is not the correct conceptualization.
Says you. Number two, that you...
Now, here's where I was like, Reddington, come on, because he's like, says you. And what he ought to be doing here is quoting the decision and being like, so here's what the decision said. Isn't that what the decision said? Right? And then you can go with, well, are you saying that the court lied in this matter? Like, is that what you're saying? Because I don't really like the, I don't know. That part didn't wow me per se. Wow, I look fat in that one picture. Okay. we're gonna put up with it anyway, just because it's got me in it. But well, it's a picture. There's a mirror in it, and I wish there wasn't. All right. Here we go. I'm just getting ready for when we go do the goal thing. All right. So carrying on here.
You did not survey any data. Recall that, sir?
Specifically in Florida is the nuance on that issue.
And number three, that you had no research whatsoever on the data that you based your opinion on. Would you agree with that, sir?
That is, yes.
Do you agree, sir, that the court held that you relied on other researchers' studies and didn't make any effort whatsoever to form an opinion based on your own research? Do you agree with that?
I don't remember the specific language of the court.
All right. Do you recall that ultimately your testimony was stricken?
No, I don't believe that it was stricken.
Okay. In any event, sir, you would agree with me that
No, I don't believe that it was stricken. And this is where you have to pull up the thing and say, so the court said, and I quote, his testimony is stricken. Marie asked, did I sneak the puppers with me? No, I didn't. I got no puppers. So
you have a memory of Avram Mack being subject to this attack, if you will, by the attorneys on behalf of the people that were involved with TAMF, right? You remember that much, right?
Yes,
okay.
I do.
Thank you. Now, in summary, sir, you're here to testify in front of this jury regarding your testimony and opinion that you've given regarding Lindsay Clancy's state of mind
I got no
at the
pupper
time
cam.
of the killing of her children. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you evaluated her in 2026. Is that right?
Yes.
So you really evaluated her about 3 years after the incident that occurred in January 22, right?
January 2023.
So you do recall the date that the incident occurred, 23, right?
So to
Okay,
answer your
the answer is right.
Yeah.
Okay. And in reference to your answer, sir, you would agree with me that there was a significant passage of time between the incident in 2023 and when you saw her about 2 or 3 months ago, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you drove out there with the guy that's going to be in here testifying in about an hour or so. Helbrun. Is it Helbrun or Heilbrun?
When you say that I drove out there,
I'm just asking the guy's name. Is it Helbrun or Heilbrun?
you'll have to ask him how he likes to pronounce it.
Well, did you know how to call him or what to call him when you were out there with him for 2 days at Tewksbury? Kirk. Okay. And
how is he managing to make headway on, like, he's making this witness look stupid by asking the most simple ass questions. Like, how do I pronounce this other guy's name? Oh, you'd have to ask him. Okay, what did you call him? Kirk. It's like, this guy is being so needlessly argumentative, and it does not, like, people think this stuff sort of plays well. They always are like, look, they think they're doing well, and I haven't loaded the clip yet, so.
you met Kirk, I imagine, that morning that you were going to evaluate Lindsay?
Yes.
And what was the date that you evaluated her? Was it February?
I think the first date was April 10th.
Okay.
The second date was April 12th. And those are the 2 days that I was there.
Right, because Kirk had to give her psychological testing on the middle day, right?
Correct.
Okay, so did you stay in a hotel or a van, or where'd you stay?
You're asking me where I stayed?
Yeah, I don't want to meet up. I just want to know where you stayed.
I stayed in Massachusetts.
Where?
I believe in Wellesley.
Where? Was it like Holiday Inn? Was it a Ritz-Carlton? Where?
A private home.
A private home. Okay. Kirk didn't stay there, did he?
I don't know.
You don't
No,
know?
he didn't stay there. He didn't stay there, that's for sure.
Okay. So in any event, you must have had plans to meet up with Kirk at Tewksbury Hospital, right?
I did meet Dr. Halpern at Tewksbury Hospital, yes.
Okay. I'm calling him Kirk because that's what you told me is that you refer to him as. But it's Dr. Hoffman. How do you pronounce it?
I believe it's Halpern, but you'll have to ask him how he prefers it.
Okay. I will.
you can see like just how much this guy is fighting on the dumbest stuff, right? Like this is absolutely the dumbest stuff to be fighting him on, and yet they're fighting him on it. And because of that, it doesn't play how this witness thinks it plays, right? This witness is like, oh, I'm doing such a great job. Like, you know, it is so, I'm really kicking this guy's butt. And in practice, it just makes you look like you're an evasive shit who can't possibly answer a question. And like, lawyers, talk to your witnesses. Make sure they don't do this, because I hope this is the right clip now.
He thinks he's doing well, doesn't he?
Yeah. All right. And we hit our first goal. Let's see if I can give me 1 second. I'm going to try to pull up the virtual tour on this, you know, on this thing here. Because, yeah, you guys will be just astounded at the level of luxury I am living in here. Oh, except it won't do that. Why? All right, give me 1 second. I gotta wrestle my wrestle the thing in order to show the right screen. Share screen. Let's see which is the right one. Not that one, not that one. This one? Yes, there we go. All right, let me show you the luxury I am staying in, and you will be like, all right, Runkle, you are sure living the high life. So here we go. And there. Whoop. All right, so goal number 1 for showing the luxury I am staying in. This is the bed with my coat on it. There is me looking, yeah, not my best. You can see that chest of drawers, which is also my desk. The chair that I stole from the what is it? From the cafeteria, from the kitchen, moved it in so I could, you know, have a chair. Little fridge, little TV. Yes, the mini fridge came with it. And that is the peak of luxury there. Yeah. Oh, somebody says, God love the AC right on the side of the bed. That is not an AC. There is no air conditioning. There is a heater. That's a heating panel, but there is no AC. So, yeah. Oh, and somebody's saying you got to love the grab bar. The reason why the grab bar is there is because this was an old folks' home. And so the grab bar is there because if the old folks fall, there is a grab bar. That's what that, you know, so it is very, it is absolutely very, what do you call it? You know, accessible, because of course it would have to be, but yeah, it's not fancy. Each room also has a little thing for a pull cord, although the cords have been removed. But there's a little switch that is pull down for assistance, which I guess sets off an alarm somewhere. And yeah. So that's kind of the thing there. And that's where I'm staying. So I will probably put a little bit more like storage and so forth in there, but yeah. If you're thinking like, Runkle, why are you living so fancy? We not fancy. We're not fancy at all. All right, here we go.
And then did you meet him in the parking lot of Tewksbury?
Yes, I think that's right.
And
Or
you
in the
had,
lobby.
sorry, what'd you say?
Or in the lobby.
Okay. So
I've slept in worse. It's not awful. I've had worse.
when you went there on that date in April, the first day, you already had your information that you were able to form your opinion based upon. Is that right?
At the time that I initiated the examination, I had reviewed records related to Ms. Clancy, but creation of the ultimate opinion.
No.
And
I'm asking about the records, sir. Real simple. The records that you reviewed. You had already reviewed them before you went to Tewksbury Hospital. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And the records would be obviously cell phone extraction records. Yes.
I don't know exactly when I reviewed the cell phone records.
How about defense expert forensic psychiatric evaluations? Dr. Philip Resnick, Dr. Margaret Spinelli, you reviewed the reports that were already prepared by my experts. Is that correct?
And also Dr. Zizel.
Zizel, yeah, thank you. Okay, because I had sent them to you, isn't that right?
You had sent them, I believe, to Dr. Avram.
To Dr. Who? I'm sorry.
I think Dr. Kirk Avram. And I think he was able to give them to me.
Okay, fine. So you also were able to review Department of Children and Family Records dated February 3rd of 2023, correct?
Correct.
And those would be records that pertained obviously after the death of the children, but it was just an interview of Patrick, the father, and Lindsay's husband, right? That's what those were.
That was a substantial component of that, but that was the
Okay, so we're gonna skip past some of this dentistry shit where like Reddington is trying to pull teeth, and yeah, we're not gonna skip past all of it. We're gonna skip past some of it, but yeah.
additionally grandiosity and an exaggerated amount or excess degree of goal-directed behavior.
And what is your, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What is your understanding, sir, of the symptoms of bipolar 2?
So bipolar 2, well, we didn't finish the definition of bipolar 1, but in terms of bipolar type 2, one would need to have had a major depressive episode. I believe we discussed that the other day as well. And also one needs to have had what's called a hypomanic episode, which is similar to a manic episode, but lesser in terms of time course that's required. And only 3 out of the 7 symptoms are required.
So bipolar 2, you would agree with me, sir, is in fact a major or a serious mental illness, right?
Yes.
And your opinion, after you had your opportunity to go back again with Kirk on the 3rd day and interview Lindsay in Tewksbury Hospital. And how long did you interview her for the 3rd day, asking her questions?
I'm not sure I remember. It was perhaps 3 hours.
You're not sure you remember. Did you take any fucking notes? Or regular notes, just like something. Okay.
So after you completed your evaluation, you came to a conclusion that, in fact, Lindsay was suffering from a major mental disease or defect, to wit, bipolar 2. Is that correct?
No.
No. So why don't we look at your report and you tell me what your ultimate opinion was of your diagnosis of Lindsay after evaluating her, sir.
I think I said this the other day that my
Why don't you say it
opinion
again, sir?
was, yes, I'm happy to. My opinion was that, and is, that she suffered from a major depressive episode and that was a part of major depressive disorder.
Well, looking at your report, sir, on your conclusions, would you agree with? So do you have your report?
He's reading from the wrong report.
Do you have your report, sir?
Can you see it sidebar just for a second?
It's not the wrong report.
See, I mean, at this point, this guy is as credible as he is hairy. And, I mean, all right.
January 24th. Is that right? Is that right? Did I read
Yes.
that right? And the mental disease from which she suffered, in your opinion, was a mood disorder, major depressive episode. Is that right?
Yes.
And you further opined that she may have also had an anxiety disorder that preceded or continued to be present while the major depressive episode proceeded through January 24th. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're aware that she has been at Tewksbury under a particular diagnosis of a mental disease or defect, right?
Yes.
What is that?
I believe it's adjustment disorder.
Adjustment disorder. Is it not your understanding, sir, that she's suffering, according to diagnosis, bipolar disorder?
I think well, you'd have to show me where you're referring to.
So did you have a chance to review Dr. Helbrin's report?
I did.
And do you know what Dr. Helbrin's opinion was of the
In terms of,
diagnosis?
yeah,
What was it?
I think he made a diagnosis of bipolar type 2.
So you have nurse practitioner Gelada, who, as a treating practitioner, indicates that the diagnosis possibly is bipolar disorder, correct?
I don't know that she used those terms, but I know that she was concerned about the possibility.
And you know, because you've obviously read and incorporated into your report Dr. Resnick's opinion, correct?
Correct.
And what is Dr. Resnick's opinion, sir, to your understanding?
In terms of the diagnosis?
Yeah.
Bipolar type 2.
Okay. How about Dr. Zeisel? You also had access to and incorporated into his report, your report, his diagnosis. What was that?
No, offhand, I don't remember what his diagnosis was.
How about Meg Spinelli? Did you have a chance to review her report and incorporate that into your report?
I reviewed her report.
Do you know what her diagnosis was, sir?
I believe it was bipolar type 1.
Right. So with all of the various healthcare providers that have an opinion of bipolar type 1, would you agree that that is a very strong indicator that a person could very well be suffering from postpartum depression?
I'm confused by your question because...
I mean, yeah, that is not surprising that you're confused, Mr. Egg, but yeah.
That last piece is not necessarily inconsistent with the diagnosis of major depressive episode.
I'm asking you, sir, about...
What I discussed the other day was when that specifier is able to be used. That would be a diagnostic question.
So with the understanding that nurse practitioner Gelada is bipolar, or looking at bipolar, that Zeisel report, you don't know or recall what it is, but you incorporated it into your report. Dr. Resnick is bipolar too. You feel that this is or is not indicative of a precursor to a person suffering from postpartum depression? It's in the books, in the articles, right?
Your use of terms, to me, seems apples and oranges. The question of postpartum depression would be, does the person have a mood disorder, and is it in the time frame following birth?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
So basically, the one thing that this guy is saying is, look, the DSM says 4 weeks. So if it's 4 weeks in a day, it doesn't meet the criteria because the DSM is the DSM is the DSM. And we can never think about something maybe being a little bit outside of it. That's basically his entire argument here. And he's conveying it in a way where, how do I put this? He's making the average viewer think that if he got colorectal cancer, the cancer would be asking for the chemotherapy. So, yeah.
So,
Can you say that again, please?
we're talking about categories that are not aligned with each other.
No, I'm asking you what your answer was, okay?
Diagnosis.
What's your answer?
You'd have to restate the question.
Okay. You recall Friday, sir, that you were talking about onset of postpartum depression symptoms occurring within a particular time frame. Do you recall that, sir?
The diagnosis would
No,
be
my question is simple. Do you recall saying what the time frame was Friday?
I'm trying to answer your question.
What is the time frame?
The time frame that
See, I don't believe that he's trying to answer the question at all. I think he's trying to dodge the questions and
designated for the diagnostic specifier called with postpartum onset is 4 weeks.
Okay. And that's your opinion, right?
Well, I believe that's what the DSM says.
Okay. So let's talk about
the 4 week period, in which that specifier may be added.
Okay.
this guy is to questions the same way that like Trinity is to bullets in the Matrix. You know, the whole like slow-mo bullet time as they go whizzing past, and he's contorting to avoid them.
Recall saying
The
that
diagnostic rule.
you recall saying that a person can be postpartum and it has to be within 4 weeks. You recall saying that, Friday?
What I would have intended to say.
No.
which I believe
What did you say to the? Come on. What did you say to the jury last Friday?
Doctor, please listen to the question and just answer the question as asked. Okay. And then if the Commonwealth has any redirect, they can follow up with their questions. Go ahead.
Thank you.
So the judge is already trying to be like, or the judge is already like, have you considered actually answering a question the way it's asked? Right? Yeah.
Do you recall saying that the person has to be postpartum within 4 weeks, according to the DSM? Recall saying that?
To meet that specifier, yeah.
Right. Well, do you understand, sir, that every woman that has a baby for the rest of their life is postpartum? Because postpartum, quite frankly, means having a baby, right?
Sure.
So,
But that wouldn't be the specifier of with postpartum onset.
yeah, but you can't. Postpartum is not a disease, doctor.
Right,
Postpartum,
it's an appellation that is defined in terms of 4 weeks.
okay, according to you, right? You understand that World Health Organization is different, right?
If you're talking about the ICD,
What is that time frame, sir?
I'm not sure what it is. I think you said it was 12 weeks.
How about the proposal to amend the DSM-5 text revision, or TR? What's the proposal for that?
Well, there's a proposal specifically around the proposed diagnosis called postpartum psychosis, and for that, it's a 6-week period.
So you've got 4 weeks, you got 6 weeks, you got 12 weeks. Would you agree, sir, that postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis can occur up to a year or even a year or longer?
I don't know, but I am telling you what the DSM says in terms of how to diagnose it and how to code it.
Okay.
He's like, so if it happens, it gets coded as something else. No, the DSM ain't perfect. And this guy is basically treating it like it's the Bible. And Reddington is sitting here going, but like, you know, yeah, I just.
You would agree, sir, that she is at Tewksbury with a diagnosis of bipolar, right?
That may be among her diagnoses.
Okay. And she's on medication, right?
Yes.
And she hasn't had, over the past 3.5 years, any problems with sleep, anxiety, depression, symptomology of the same while she's been medicated at Tewksbury, right?
She has not demonstrated any signs of mania.
And she hasn't demonstrated any signs of anxiety either, has she, while she's been on the medication, the right medication, right?
I note that she's complaining of anxiety. I'm not sure she's demonstrating signs of anxiety.
Other than the fact that she's paralyzed and has to be in a wheelchair, she's not exhibiting the inability to bathe, the inability to emote.
All right. So we're going to jump past the rest of this guy over to the redirect. And the reason why we're going to jump past the rest of this guy is that it's basically the same shit. It is him unable to answer a question for shit, no matter what. And like if you're sitting there and this guy had fallen off a cruise ship and you're like, do you want me to throw you a life raft? He'd be like, well, I'm not sure that I understand the definition of life raft. And you're like, fuck it, have an anchor, dude.
Not that I recall.
Is there a further analysis that can be performed on the blood that is drawn from the woman when she sees the doctor to determine whether or not there are enzyme reactions to the prescription drugs that they're prescribed?
There are tests that can be done to determine the relative degree of one enzyme or another and how much they would do in terms of breaking down the medications, if that's what you're talking about.
Well, that test wasn't administered to Lindsay, was it?
I don't think so.
In spite of innumerable, which we won't have to go through, complaints that she had and her husband about what was happening to her as a result of her postpartum, as well as postpartum depression, symptomology of postpartum psychosis in conjunction with the narcotics, the drugs, the prescriptions that she was given. They never did any further testing, right?
Correct.
How about thyroid? Is that something that's important to you as a doctor dealing with a postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis?
Thyroid would be important to assess in a person complaining of mood problems, yes.
Well, how about a woman who is complaining that during the postpartum, which goes on ad infinitum, is complaining of postpartum depression symptoms and or postpartum psychosis? It's important to check their thyroid level, isn't it?
It would be important to check thyroid in multiple different psychiatric conditions.
So the answer is yes, right? The answer is yes.
Well, I'm not sure that specifically answers your question.
I don't care.
Let's go back.
It's important to check their thyroid level, isn't it?
It would be important to check thyroid in multiple different psychiatric conditions.
So the answer is yes, right? The answer is yes.
Well, I'm not sure that specifically answers your question.
I don't care. Thank you. That's all I have, Judge.
Okay. Come
Oh, man. I mean, the thing is, at this point, he's like, we are not going to get a straight answer out of this guy. And so his ending is, the ending of this is basically shut the fuck up. Like, it is the most dismissive, like, disrespectful snarking at this guy, which is basically just, screw it. My mic is apparently too hot. I've seen a couple of people say that, so I'm turning the mic down a little bit. Yeah, it's just like, it's from my cousin Vinny. I'm done with this guy. And then you've got the egg there sitting there looking like a, making a little pout. I mean, the thing is that if the guy wasn't answering the question, I would have been like, oh, so you're not answering my question then? But yeah.
Redirect.
Good morning, Dr. Mack.
Once again, nice bow. She's part of the Bow of the Month Club.
Now, defense counsel kept referring to your investigation in this case. Do you see your role as an investigator when you're retained to do these evaluations?
No.
And in fact, you are evaluating for a specific question, correct?
That's correct.
And
leading.
In your evaluation in this case, you were asked to focus on the mental condition of Lindsay Clancy at the time of January 24, 2023, right?
So, excuse me.
Leading.
He's able to answer yes or no, but this is direct, so I'm objecting to the leading.
I'm going to allow just to kind of focus to the area.
No, Judge, don't allow it. She gets away with so much shit.
And then we'll go from there. Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. You can answer that question.
Yes.
Now, were you provided the information that you reviewed?
Yes.
And were you aware where that came from, whether it was the court or the district attorney's office or from defense?
I'm not necessarily aware of the origin of any of the documents that I reviewed, only that I did review them and I did possess them.
And as far as the timing of when you were retained in this case, I believe your testimony on Friday was that your memory was early 2025 you were retained. Is that right?
Yes, I would say
That's not just leading. That's just straight up testifying.
that the initial discussion about it was at the end of 2024. I'm not exactly sure when the Commonwealth or the District Attorney's Office exactly made the retention happen, but I understand it to be early 2025.
And you were provided a significant amount of information after you were retained, correct?
Yes,
And that information continued to come to you up until the point that you were going to meet with the defendant in April of 2026. Is that fair to say?
that's correct.
And were you able to set up that interview with her on your own?
No,
Is it your understanding that it had to be with the permission of the court and the parties?
that's my understanding.
And that date in April was a date that was provided to you as a date that you could go and speak with her, correct?
Yes, the 2 dates, April 10th and April 12th.
And in conducting these evaluations, is it standard or best practice to review as much information as you can prior to that interview?
That's correct.
And you were provided records from the Tewksbury State Hospital in the weeks prior to your interview. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, when you're retained on cases, this case and any other, you're paid for your time and your work regardless of what your ultimate opinion is, correct?
That's right.
Can you explain to us the relationship that you have with the
Okay, let's talk about that, because you're not really paid the same regardless of what your ultimate opinion is. They get paid by the hour. And so if your ultimate, like if they said, hey, what's your opinion here? Like reviewing the documents, and their opinion was, yeah, she totally, this is not guilty by reason of insanity, then they're not going to pay for the interview. They're not going to pay for the testimony in trial. They're not going to pay for the prep at trial. I mean, it's just not true. It's just not accurate. No.
Park Dietz and Associates?
Yes. There are times that attorneys around the country go to Park Dietz and Associates seeking or asking if they have an expert in a particular field, and Park Dietz and Associates may be able to propose one expert or another who might be able to help that attorney or law firm.
And so in your relationship with that company, you are simply an independent contractor, or are you employed by the company?
Independent contractor.
And fair to say, there's not kind of a group email that somebody can send out asking for experts on all these types of areas in which you testify, right?
No, the Park Dietz and Associates would go to individual experts that they think might be appropriate for one or another case, given the
Okay, skipping ahead a little bit here. Oh, did I skip to no, I didn't. There we go. They took a break.
a manner by which to make a diagnosis that provides this specification or highlights this detail of the individual's illness.
And as far as your conclusions, again, when you're asked to do an evaluation, do you rely on other people's conclusions about diagnosis when making your own diagnosis?
It's important to understand what others have observed and what they're concerned about. And then as a physician, one will make one's own diagnosis.
And so in this case, you came to the conclusion that the defendant presented with a major depressive episode, right?
Correct.
And you relied on diagnostic criteria in the major depressive disorder category. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that was the diagnostic criteria that I used to support that diagnosis.
And counsel went through with you today a number of different, I think he called them symptoms of postpartum depression. But as far as major depressive disorder, what are the 9 general symptoms that you see, or you can find 5 or more of, to find that somebody suffers from a major depressive disorder?
So a major depressive episode is defined, and this is parallel to the description I was giving earlier of a manic episode. They're both problems of mood. They're both discrete periods of mood problems. So a major depressive episode would be a 2-week discrete change in a person's mood, and you have to have at least 5 of 9 different symptoms or signs, and it has to be persistent, and it has to be most of the days. So the 9 include
Note, that was actually a really important bit. Most of the day, most of the days. Why do they say most of the day and most of the days? Well, it's because you can have bright moments, notwithstanding depression. You can have better days, notwithstanding depression. And so that line that he just said right there undercuts basically all of the prosecution's argument about, like, well, isn't it true she went to the zoo or whatever? It's like, yeah, that is entirely consistent. Yep.
Starting out with anhedonia, meaning lack of feeling pleasure. Secondly, actually feeling depressed mood. It can be feelings of guilt or worthless.
By the way, when they're trying to like figure out if someone is suffering from anhedonia, they use listening to this guy as like a baseline, because this is the absence of pleasure, and then you can that gives you your 0 number for pleasure, and then you can move on from there.
And then it also may include problems with thinking about death or suicidality. Furthermore, problems with sleep, eating, what we call energy, psychomotor activity, either psychomotor slowing or agitation. And then all these, you have to have 5 out of these 9
Right.
In order to meet the major depressive episode.
And I think maybe you might have missed one, diminished ability to think or concentrate. Is that one?
Gee, who's testifying here?
Concentration. So
a lot of the symptoms that counsel read to you are symptoms that are in the category of a major depressive disorder. Is that correct?
yeah, this is the method of making the diagnosis of a major depressive episode.
So when you were asked on cross-examination about postpartum depression, and you kept answering that you found her to have a depressive disorder, are those the symptoms that you were speaking of when you were saying you found a major depressive disorder?
Can I object?
No rule.
Bleeding?
Correct.
No rule. I'll allow it.
I have nothing further.
Okay.
Thank you.
Reddington is like, this is obviously leading, and the judge is like, I don't give a shit. We don't do that here.
Anything further?
Just briefly, sir, are you suggesting that my office had any control over when you were able to go visit Lindsay in the hospital?
Objection.
No rule.
I don't know if your office was involved, but I imagine, so I don't know.
You don't know.
I imagine your office was aware,
Thank you.
but I don't know.
Doctor,
the control.
Doctor, I think you've answered the question. All right. Next. Anything further?
Thank you, Judge.
Anything further, Coma? All right.
The judge is like, you don't get to do this, doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So, members of the jury, we're going to take a morning break at this point. And we're going to come back, continue with the.
All right, they're gonna take a break, and then they're gonna go to. Here we go.
This court's now in session. Please be seated.
For the purpose of the meeting, we return back to the trial of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, including the defendant and including the 18 jurors.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Attorney Spray, you call your next witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth calls Dr. Kirk Halvin.
Oh man, I'm doing Bob dirty.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
There we go. There's Bob. I kind of did him dirty there with the pause because I caught him like scratching his nose there. So, but yes, Bob is right there front and center.
Attorney Spray, you call your next witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth calls Dr. Kirk Halvin.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Start right here. Raise your right hand for the clerk, please.
Good morning. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony in the evidence you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending between the Commonwealth and the defendant shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You may have a seat.
Watch your step, please.
All right, good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, sir.
All right, I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up so the jury can hear you. And with that, Attorney Sprague.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes. My name is Kirk Heilbrun. That's spelled K-I-R-K, and then Heilbrun.
Okay, so very clear or very early in dealing with this guy. I mean, I wouldn't have probably answered that I called him Kirk. I probably would have answered that we didn't talk much because this guy is he's got a bit of a thing. Does Mrs. Runkle watch your videos when you're away or at all? She used to watch my videos, but now she's like, I get enough of you. And I'm like, fair. Fair.
What's your occupation?
I'm a psychologist. I am in the Department of Psychology at Drexel University in Philadelphia. And as part of that, I run 2 clinics. One is a clinic where I conduct psychological evaluations for, thanks, sir, for courts and attorneys, and the other is what we call the Reentry Project, where we provide assessment and treatment services to individuals who are either returning from federal prison or under the jurisdiction of a federal mental health court or have been exonerated following a false conviction.
And do you specialize in certain areas of psychology?
Yes, I do. I'm a forensic psychologist, and that means that I take the application of clinical psychology and I apply it to legal proceedings in criminal and civil matters.
Can you describe your training in clinical psychology?
Yes, I can. I received a doctoral degree from the University of Texas at Austin.
All right, he's very qualified. We're going to skip over a little bit here and get to him testifying.
I want to do my best to be as accurate and open and thorough as possible, even if it doesn't necessarily help someone.
And seeing as you've treated patients and you've conducted forensic evaluations, would you conduct a forensic evaluation on one of your patients if requested?
I would not. No, if I were asked to do that, I would explain that those are 2 different roles, that there is very likely a conflict of interest that could arise if I try to do both, and I would refer whoever requested it to another individual to conduct the evaluation.
And have you testified in cases as a witness on issues like competence to stand trial, criminal responsibility at the time of an offense, civil commitment, and other areas?
I have. Over the course of my career, I've testified about 330 times with adults and juveniles. The issues have included things like transfer and sentencing, competence to stand trial, mental state at the time of the offense, civil commitment, and personal injury. I've testified on behalf of both the defense and the prosecution, and I've been qualified as an expert in juvenile criminal and civil litigation in both state and federal court. And I estimate that over the course of my career, I have conducted about 75% of the time I've conducted an evaluation and testified on behalf of the defense. And the remaining 25% have been conducted and testified on behalf of the prosecution or by order of the court.
So basically, what they're doing here is they're kind of going like, this guy is totally, unbiased. And also this guy is totally, he's kind of throwing some shade at the previous defense witnesses because the previous defense witness used the term patient. So he's like, well, that's wildly improper. He's using the wrong word.
And have there been times in that 25% of your
Because
piecework
Red hasn't
that
objected.
you've been retained by the prosecution, say for a criminal responsibility evaluation, where you find that the defendant is not criminally responsible and you have to tell the prosecutor that?
Yes, that happens with the prosecutor, and it also happens with the defense. And it's just something that we have to be able to do if we're in the profession of forensic psychology, because if we try to be thorough and accurate and impartial, then sometimes the results will favor whoever asked us to conduct the evaluation, and sometimes they won't. And what they have to hear, if my findings don't favor them, is that they're probably not going to want to use it.
And is there something called retention bias?
There is. That's something that's been discussed, particularly in the last 10 or 15 years. And there are a number of different kinds of biases that the field has paid particular attention to, potentially, over the last 20 years or so. And retention bias is the bias that is a part of what we can experience when we want to or inclined to favor the side that asks us to conduct the evaluation. And that's an important consideration. And I'm aware of it, and I try to guard against it as much as possible by talking with others, getting multiple sources of information, and a variety of other ways of doing that.
So when you
Problem with bias is you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to turn my bias off. It's okay, cool, but that's not how that works. So the prosecution is trying to be like, this guy is the only unbiased hero ever, and yeah.
you conduct a forensic evaluation, you're actively guarding against having that retention bias?
Yes.
Now, have you specialized in any particular diagnosis or type of offense or legal question?
I have not specialized in that way. Most of my forensic evaluation experience has been with criminal and juvenile matters, and they have often included alleged crimes of violence, but I haven't specialized in any particular kind of mental or emotional disorder, any particular kind of crime, anything like that.
And when you say criminal and juvenile matters, are you referring to adults as the criminal portion and juveniles as juvenile?
I am, yes.
Okay. And do you find that there's a benefit to not focusing in on a particular illness or diagnosis or type of offense?
Yes, I do. Among the biases I talked about a minute ago, there's something called confirmation bias. And basically that's it.
So basically at this point, the prosecution and him are sort of going through a bit of a script to basically try to discredit prior witnesses. It's not really improper. It just is a thing.
If you make up your mind earlier or incline toward one particular diagnosis or anything like that, then there can be a real problem, because when you get conflicting information, that is information that's not consistent with that decision that you've made or leaned toward early on, then the problem becomes you pay attention to the information that's consistent with it and you stay away from the information that isn't. And so in some ways, for me, not specializing gives me an advantage, because what I can do is come in and not be inclined toward any particular diagnosis or possible answer to a particular set of questions or a particular hypothesis or anything like that. What I can do is do my best to look at the different possibilities, and when there's evidence favoring one or supporting one, I'm inclined toward that. And when there's not, then I set it aside.
So I still think this guy is way better than Mack, but we haven't seen him on cross yet, so we can't really judge this guy until we see him on cross. But we should see a little bit more of his stuff here.
General anxiety symptoms and depressive disorders, but not so much the postpartum necessarily. And
Doctor, if I could just stop you.
No,
yes.
You finished with that description of what information you got from that provider?
Not quite, Judge, but almost.
Okay.
I apologize.
Yes.
You can finish.
So she was not going to remain in women and infants, and the next step that she took was hospitalization at McLean.
And so if I could ask you a follow-up question now, before we
Yes.
go on to McLean,
Yes,
about women and infants, were you able to review the women and infants records?
I was, yes.
And looking at the women and infants records on page 9 I have here, it states that patient was offered several options for her, including inpatient treatment for medication management, a partial hospital program focused on general mental health, or continued outpatient management. Patient plans to follow up with her outpatient provider for guidance. So even though they said she didn't necessarily fit into their postpartum program, they did offer her 3 other programs, correct?
They did, yes.
And her response, Ms. Clancy's response, was that she was going to discuss that with her provider for guidance, correct?
Yes.
And in reviewing the records of Dr. Tufts and Rebecca Gelada, did you ever see any mention of the defendant actually following through with that and discussing with them those 3 options that were offered by women and infants?
No, what I saw is that they were back to being treated according to the plan and the medication and so on. But she was back to being treated, discussing with Dr. Tufts what the best implications were for treatment.
Okay. And then you were about to talk about what happened at McLean. So if you could please tell us what you learned about McLean and how that was impactful to your analysis or your evaluation.
Yes, she was admitted to McLean on January 1st of 2023. And what got her there was suicidal thinking. That was very difficult for her. That was a very difficult time to experience that sort of thing. And so she went into McLean on January 1st, and their admission documentation listed postpartum depression and major depressive disorder, which they described as recurrent and mild. While she was in McLean, what she reported as her primary concern was insomnia. And she said that while she was hospitalized, it actually made her more anxious than being at home. And when she was asked about the suicidal impulses and...
Wait, somebody was more anxious being in a mental hospital than they were at home? Shock and horror and awe. I mean, okay. I'm kind of surprised that is, yeah.
And thoughts. She said that she would not commit suicide because of her children and her mother. So she had they asked about reasons for living, among other things, and those were some of the ones that she cited.
Doctor, would that be called a protective factor?
Yes, sometimes it's called a protective factor.
And that's something that protects you or prevents you from committing suicide?
Yes, would keep you from doing something like that.
And then what were your further findings?
So she stayed at McLean for 5 days, and she was documented as not having safety concerns and at minimal risk for returning to the community by January 3rd. She described her mood there as numb, but she denied things like delusions or hallucinations or suicidal thoughts that were continuing or homicidal thinking. And at the time she was discharged on the 5th of January, she was described as cooperative and pleasant, with no psychosis, no suicidal or homicidal thinking. And she said, when I was asking her about it, that when she left McLean, she had what she described as a small shred of hope after discharge, because she was off of medication, Seroquel, which she thought was causing her a lot of trouble. But the intrusive suicidal thoughts returned, she said, within a week or so following her discharge from McLean.
And would we be moving on now to number 3 on your PowerPoint?
Yes, we are.
Symptoms following the beginning of medication. So what were your major findings in that area?
Well, I have, I think I've combined 2 and 3 as I've talked about this, because one of the things about this is after she started taking the medication in October, the Zoloft, she had, the anxiety didn't get better. She had great difficulty with insomnia. And she said she was numb. She felt like a zombie. It wasn't something that she was able to.
Why is this not hearsay? Well, 1, it's a statement of the defendant. So the defendant's statements against interest are admissible. And 2, this is the expert. So it's not, this is the basis of his expertise. So, yeah.
To see any improvement in. In fact, she thought it was getting a lot worse. And so basically, what she thought is that the symptoms that she was experiencing following taking the medication that was prescribed beginning in October, she said the symptoms were getting worse, particularly a new symptom, which was insomnia.
We can move on to the next slide. Doctor, and does that bring us to number 4 on your PowerPoint, the adverse response to medications, including bad insomnia?
Yes, and I won't take nearly as long in talking about that, because one of the things that she thought was happening when she began taking that medication in October is that the medication itself was far from making the anxiety better. It was making it worse and keeping her from sleeping. And it was, she thought, making it difficult for her to, she thought that the medication was actually making it a real problem for her to sleep, to feel. She felt emotionally numb and that sort of thing. And so accompanying the bad insomnia with the apparent adverse responses, producing the insomnia and other things, was a real problem for her as she saw it. And it's one of the things that she continued to emphasize to providers, whether it was Dr. Tufts or Ms. Gelada, a nurse practitioner. She said, basically, I think these medications are making me worse. But one of the things, moving on to number 5 there, one of the things she also said is that she was focusing on making the anxiety, helping the anxiety get better through medication. There was a little bit of counseling going on with Ms. Gelada, but one of the things that she did not really have was, say, a cognitive behavioral therapist or something like that to help her work through the problems. She thought that medication was going to try to help, and it really did. It was something that she focused on a good deal.
And when you say she was focused, the defendant was focused on medication resolving her problems, would that include talking to doctors about different medications to try, researching medications on her own, asking friends and family for tips on medications, things like that?
Yes, all of those things.
Okay. And then should we move on to number 6, the mixed evidence about diagnosis and the nature of her problems?
Yes.
And what were your major findings in that area?
Over the course of the time that she was going through these experiences between mid-October and late January, she'd had a lot of providers offer a lot of diagnoses, and there were a lot of complicating considerations. So among some of the diagnoses that she'd been given were adjustment disorder with anxiety and depression, generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder 2, postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, post-traumatic stress disorder. That last one was not before January of 2023, but it's something that she has right now. And in addition to those diagnoses, which sort of implies that she has a disorder and she has symptoms, there were complicating factors. She had psychotropic medication with apparent adverse reaction. She had serious sleep deprivation over a 3-month period. She had between 5 and 8 months after the birth of her 3rd child. She had anxiety about returning to work in the fall of 22. She was worried about leaving her baby for work, and he was not taking the bottle. And the other thing, which was important for her, is she was always someone who was she was into exercise, and she stopped exercising sometime in October when she started having these adverse reactions. But it's one of these things that it was a real difficult thing for her to handle when she couldn't do the running or the yoga or the Peloton or other things that she used to keep her anxiety managed.
Were you aware that she was able to return to exercising on several dates in December and in January, going to the Kingsbury Club where she was a member?
Yes, she was trying that, yes.
Yeah. And is that something that, as putting on your clinician hat for a moment, is that something that you would recommend to a patient that they, in this situation, that they try to do things like exercise to complement medication and therapy?
Well, if it works, it does work for some people, and they use it effectively over the course of their lives, particularly if they have some anxiety that might not fully need treatment, but it's something that might interfere with your life a little bit.
And what were your next?
So if it works, then it works. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Cool. Great. But this guy is more likable than Mack. Notwithstanding the mic placement. Mic placement does make it kind of look like it's a leech sticking out of his head.
Next observations?
Well, if we could move on to the next slide, please.
So here we have number 7, your diagnosis by bipolar 2 disorder. So was that your diagnosis of Ms. Clancy?
It was, and it was hard because of all the diagnoses in the records and all the symptoms that she experienced and so on. To make a diagnosis of bipolar disorder or bipolar 2 disorder, which is a kind of a less serious way of experiencing bipolar disorder, you have to have identifiable mood swings. And one is a period of depression, which she certainly had, but a period of depression. And that was something that made a big difference over a certain period of time, and depressed symptoms and sadness and not having much or not having much motivation and things like that. But you also, for a bipolar diagnosis, need something where you have an identifiable period where the mood is much greater. It's much. One of the things that I might say is that one feels during a manic period sort of high, jumpy, decreased need for sleep, racing thoughts, sort of flight of ideas, thinking really fast, excessive appetites for different kinds of things, not getting tired, feeling important and powerful, and things like that. And I was having a hard time finding something that looked like it was a manic episode. There were times when she felt, as she described it after the birth of different children, she felt good, she felt on top of the world, she felt really close to them, to her husband and her kids, and so on. But
it's really weird how we've got all of these psychologists and psychiatrists, and they don't agree with each other, including between the 2 prosecution experts. So cool.
It's also something that it didn't look like a manic episode so much as it looked like she was really feeling good and getting back into exercise and things like that. So it's one of those considerations where the thing that sort of gave me pause for a while in diagnosing a bipolar disorder is that I didn't see that manic episode. But what really convinced me is that she's been at Tewksbury now for more than 3.5 years. And the diagnosis of record at Tewksbury is bipolar disorder. And they are, as I read the records, very careful about what they prescribe and how much, and various other kinds of considerations. And one of the things that the records reflect is that when she was on some medication that's prescribed to help stabilize her mood, and it was discontinued for medical reasons, she had a kind of immediate response to that, which is to say, she noticed it, and that's a consideration as well. So I ended up with making a diagnosis of bipolar 2 disorder, which is a slightly less, not slightly, it's a less severe form of bipolar disorder.
And doctor, why did you diagnose with bipolar 2 and not bipolar?
Because bipolar, as I said, is a more severe kind of diagnosis. It's more noticeable. And if you had a bipolar diagnosis, then I would want to see something that clearly and definitely looks like a manic episode. And I did not see any evidence of that before January 24th of 2023.
And there were some incidents that have been described by witnesses who have testified and in the medical records, things like the defendant cleaning out her garage with her husband at one point in time. Was that something that you did or did not see as manic, and why?
Well, there was some indication in the records that some people thought it was manic. I did not see it that way. She did not describe, when I asked her, whether she did not describe that as a manic episode. She didn't think it was. And when I talked to Patrick Clancy, he said he didn't think it was either. And basically it was cleaning out the garage and getting a lot of stuff into 20 trash bags and so on. But one of the things he said is, they were both working hard, but it wasn't all her out there putting stuff in 20 trash bags, and he wasn't a part of it. He said he was definitely a part of it.
Okay. And would it be accurate that bipolar disorder requires that period of mania for, I believe it's 7 days, where bipolar 2 requires hypomania for 4 days? Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And so did you see signs of hypomania?
Well, that's something where it's less clear that it's manic. And that's one of the things that inclined me toward bipolar 2 is I just did not see signs that were clearly manic episodes. But it looked like something that it possibly could have been a less serious or less severe manic episode.
And in terms of this diagnosis, this bipolar 2, is there a way to determine whether she always had this disorder or if it's something new, and if it's something new, when it appeared?
It's a disorder that typically comes on in adulthood. It's not something that you have as a kid or even for the most part as an adolescent. It's something that you start to show the signs of when you are in your 20s or 30s.
And so at this point, would it be time to move on to number 8 on your PowerPoint?
Yes.
Which would be criminal responsibility evaluation. So mental state and legal standard are relevant. So what were your findings on number 8?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to say about number 8 is that I wasn't called up here just to make a diagnosis or talk about symptoms. This is a criminal responsibility evaluation. And one of the things that I take a look at very carefully when I'm doing something like this is what's the standard for criminal responsibility in the jurisdiction. Now, I'm aware that the court will instruct the jury about the standard and how you apply it and so on, but my understanding of the standard for criminal responsibility in Massachusetts is that a person is not criminally responsible if at the time of the offense they suffered from a mental disease or defect and as a result lacked substantial capacity either to appreciate the criminality or wrongfulness of their conduct or to conform their conduct to the requirements of the law. So there were really 3 parts. There really are 3 parts to that criminal responsibility standard. The first is mental disease or defect, and that's one of the reasons why I've paid so much attention to the symptoms and when they began and things like that. But the other thing that I try to do is take those symptoms and see how they affect somebody, in this case, Ms. Clancy's capacity for knowing that something like this was illegal or wrong, or how they affected her capacity for conforming her conduct to the requirements of the law, which I think of as kind of controlling her behavior.
And
So basically now they're taking him through the test, right? This is the test for how the law is, and in my view, she doesn't meet it. Is this sped up? Yes, 1.25.
to determine, is that something that those 3 elements are those things that you kept in mind throughout your evaluation of the records and your interview of the defendant and the psychological testing that you did?
It is, yes. And it's something that I put on page 1 of my report because I always try to do that to try to make it as clear as I can that this is something I'm paying attention to throughout the entire evaluation.
So that's your mindset when approaching the evaluation of Ms. Clancy?
It is, yes.
Okay. And so what types of psychological testing did you do with Ms. Clancy?
There were several reasons why I wanted to do psychological testing. One is what we call response style. In a matter like this, somebody like Ms. Clancy during an interview could respond what we call reliably, which is within the limits of her memory, as accurately as she possibly can.
I think Bob's doing
But there
his
are
own
other
training.
response styles.
So-
One is that somebody could do what we call exaggeration or even fabrication. Sometimes that's called malingering, which is they distort or they take the kind of report that they do and they exaggerate or even fabricate the severity of what they are experiencing. And then the other kind of response style is to underreport, basically to say, I'm going to minimize or even deny things that I actually experience. So response style is always important in doing a forensic evaluation like this, and I paid attention to it. And one of the psychological tests that I administered, something called the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, has scales that allow me to look and say, is she being kind of reliable, or is she exaggerating or fabricating, or is she minimizing or denying? So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to do these tests. The second is I wanted to pay attention to possible symptoms of what we call severe mental illness, things like hallucinations or delusions or mental disorganization. They can't really kind of focus on what's being discussed so much as you tend to get off track or have tangential speech, which is kind of running off the topic and going to different ways and so on. Cognitive disorganization is another speech. There's also a review of her reported symptoms around January 24th of 2023, and I wanted to ask her questions in a fairly comprehensive way about that. There are other symptoms that she was experiencing reportedly, depression in particular, and I wanted to know how depressed she was feeling. And so that was something that I could also measure with these psychological tests. And then finally, suicidal thinking was quite important. And I wanted to ask her questions about her thinking and feeling and behavior related to suicide, kind of leading up to January 24th and then around that time. So these are all reasons why I gave her psychological tests.
I'm going to have you pause there for a moment.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's a good time
It's a
to
good
break.
time to break. All right, why don't we do that?
All right, so they take a break. The break is extensive. And then we come back to hereabouts.
And I can sum up those results very quickly by saying that when she responded to one of them as she would have if she'd been filling it out in January of 2023, what it suggested is that this was a very serious suicide attempt at that time. And when she responded to both of them as she feels right now, she also was indicating that she remains at high risk for suicide, and hence the one-to-one supervision for 3.5 years. The brief symptom inventory is something where you ask people about a number of possible symptoms that they've been experiencing within the last month or so. Gave it to her under two circumstances. One is, how are you doing right now? That is around April of this year. And the other was, how are you doing in January of 2023? Her description of how she was doing in January 2023 is that she endorsed feeling blue or still extremely depressed, feeling no interest in things, thoughts of death or dying, feeling hopeless about the future, feeling very self-conscious with others, and the idea that something is wrong with her mind. She thought depression, suspiciousness, memory problems, problems with attention and concentration, and things like she was having trouble concentrating, so she'd be cooking, for instance, and she'd forget what step she was on. So most of these are consistent with symptoms of depression. And so I thought that they were good indications that she was endorsing feelings of depression, although she was improving somewhat from her December feelings. Something called the Obsessional Beliefs Questionnaire has 3 scales. One scale is kind of responsibility threat estimation, which is a belief about your personal responsibility and overestimation of threats. She was not elevated on that. A second was perfectionism and certainty. She was not elevated on that either, although she works hard and so on, but she was not elevated on the perfectionist aspect of this test right now. However, she was elevated on something called importance and control of thoughts, meaning that for her, it's always been important to be able to work hard and control what's going on with her mind and her life. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes that I think was making her depressed and hopeless and sad and so on is that she had been trying very hard since October to basically control the problems that she was having, and it wasn't working. It was not succeeding for her. Okay, and then there was something called the Lahoney-Slade hallucination scale. And so she endorsed the following things. Sometimes a passing thought will seem...
All right, so he goes through this for a long time. And the thing is that this actually tends to be fairly effective with jurors. And the reason why it tends to be fairly effective with jurors is, I mean, your brain kind of dies when you start listening to every single response. But B, it sounds really authoritative. So we're going to skip past this, partially because I am also beginning to run out of gas because I think I'm getting sick, which is yay.
Intermittent than constant. They'll come and they'll go. You'll hear it, stop hearing it. You'll hear it again, stop hearing it, and this can extend over a period of time. About 18 minutes or the duration of the time it took to do this. There were other times, though, for instance, when she was in the hospital after this happened and was talking to a psychiatric attending, when she said that the voice had said other things, for example, the children will suffer without you, or you have to take the kids with you, or things like that. So inconsistency is important because it suggests inaccuracy. In other words, which version is accurate? Is it the first? Is it the second? Is it neither? I mean, here it couldn't be both, because she said, I only heard this. To some people, she said that. And then I heard this plus this. To other people, she said that.
Doctor, if she had said to a third person that it was a different version, such as you have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself because there's a danger to you and the kids, would that be a further consideration of the inconsistencies?
Objection.
Yeah, overrule.
The more inconsistency there is,
Can we have a basis?
I mean, the judge is letting the prosecution get away with all sorts of things. People are saying the judge is being super fair. I'm like, maybe. Not feeling it.
It's asked as a hypothetical.
Hypothetical, yes.
I'll allow that.
So it's not based on evidence, it's a hypothetical.
It's hypothetical.
But he got that out in front of the jury. Jury, this is not based on evidence. He's just making this shit up. The judge is like, yep, he's making this shit up.
you might have to repeat the question.
So if the person has a third version of what happened, what the voice said and what the reasons the voice gave, would that be important in your assessment as well regarding inconsistency?
Objection. It's speculation. It's not based on evidence, and there's no foundation for a hypothetical question.
Let's just ask it as a hypothetical. Assuming this and then go that way.
Doctor, a hypothetical question for you. Assuming that a person has already given two versions of a voice, what the voice said for them to do, and then gives a third version of what the voice told them to do, would that be significant to you in assessing the inconsistencies?
Objection for the record.
Yeah, overrule. Go ahead.
I mean, everybody who tells the same story repeatedly is going to have inconsistencies. That's just how that goes. All right.
What I would say is the more inconsistency there is, the more problematic I find it to take any one particular account and say this is the accurate one.
And then what other evidence did you find against acute psychosis?
There is some research that's been conducted on malingered hallucinations, which are accounts of hallucinations that are exaggerated or fabricated. And I found it useful to look at that research and see what it suggested and kind of lay it out there in terms of the way she described it. So some research suggests that that one consideration is whether the voices are internal or external, whether they're coming from your own thoughts or whether they're coming from outside of your head. And Ms. Clancy perceived this voice as external, which is more consistent with genuine hallucinations. However, command hallucinations are often, in about 88% of individuals reporting them by one account, accompanied by a related delusion. Ms. Clancy did not report any accompanied delusions. So thus far, you've got 1 point for genuine and 1 point for possible exaggeration.
I'm sorry. Do we not know how fucking statistics work? Because this made me lose my mind. You cannot use statistics like this. Statistics don't work like this. It does. This is a blatant logical fallacy, and this guy doesn't see it. So let's consider this possibility, right? Let's consider how this works. Statistically, of the people who buy lottery tickets, less than 1% win the lottery. Right? That's fairly self-evident, right? So, of the people who buy the Powerball, like less than 1% win the Powerball. So this guy here, who is claiming he won the Powerball and is driving a brand new Rolls Royce customized with a lift kit and like rhinestones all over it, not only lacks taste, but could not have won the Powerball. And it's like, that is not actually how the stats work. Like, you cannot use it that way. You can't backwards the stat that way. Yeah, that annoyed the heck out of me.
Exaggerated. Then there's frequency and control. Genuine psychotic hallucinations are more often intermittent than constant. They'll come and they'll go. You'll hear it, stop hearing it. You'll hear it again, stop hearing it, and this can extend over a period of time.
Like, you can say this is an unusual presentation, but you can't say that's a point in favor of malingering. It just doesn't work that way.
Ms. Clancy, in this instance, reported that the voice was constant for 18 to 20 minutes, and then it stopped. It had not been experienced before, and it has not been experienced since. And she also did not report having any control over the voice or over her actions in response to the voice. Then the next item is content. So genuine hallucinations are often familiar, use both genders, and are clear rather than vague. Ms. Clancy described this voice as clear, but it was unfamiliar and it was a single male voice. So that was sort of mixed. I'm not counting it as one direction or another. And then finally, reaction and coping. Individuals who experience hallucinations like this often try to reduce their influence in different ways. Could be praying, could be listening to music. And while those who inaccurately report the experience of such hallucinations often do not describe coping mechanisms. And Ms. Clancy didn't report any attempt to stop the voice or distract herself from it or what have you. So there were about 3 points on which her account more closely resembled exaggerated or fabricated hallucinations. One where it looked more genuine and one that was kind of mixed.
If I could ask you a question, you said that there were more points indicating malingering or exaggerating the existence of the voice. But earlier you testified about your psychological testing of Ms. Clancy, and it showed minimization, and it didn't show malingering. Could you explain how those two things could occur in the same person at the same time?
Yes. When we try to appraise through testing or specialized measures something that looks like malingering or exaggeration, the way we typically do it as psychologists who develop the measures is it looks like somebody who is going to take a shotgun approach. They're going to say unusual things are wrong and strange things are wrong and many things are wrong and things like that. If you do that, we're pretty good at picking up that shotgun approach to malingering. But if I ask you a bunch of questions and you answer them almost entirely in a genuine way, that you're being as accurate as you can, except with one exception. When I ask you about one experience or one symptom and you exaggerate or fabricate that, it's we can't pick that up through our testing. So what we have to do is...
Oh, so your testing doesn't detect it. At which point, where is this coming from?
Instead is we have to kind of develop our ideas about how it might have been experienced, what it was consistent with, what the disorder is. We take a broader approach, which is what I've tried to do in talking about this.
He's like, if we assume she's lying about this, then it's malingering. Neat, dude. Real fucking useful.
We'll go to the next slide, please. And was there further evidence against acute psychosis?
Yes. I'm going to start with the question of thoughts or hallucinations. I've already said that I found the account of hallucinations to be, as she described it, it would be very, very unusual to experience it that way. Never having, not before, not since, constantly for 18 minutes. However, if this was a thought, an unwelcome, intrusive thought, but still a thought, that's basically, this is your last chance, you have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself, then that would be consistent with thoughts that she'd been experiencing for some time. She'd been having thoughts about harming herself, that she was, it was going to be very difficult for her to do this in a way that was, that made sense. She was experiencing thoughts about hurting herself because her brain might have been damaged. She was experiencing thoughts about hurting the kids. She was experiencing all sorts of unwelcome thoughts. If that were the case on January 24th, if these were thoughts, then that would be consistent with what she'd been experiencing for months before. So that was something that made more sense to me, that rather than an auditory hallucination, it would have been an unwelcome, intrusive thought. The next bullet is her response to her husband's question, "What did you do?" So when he got home around 6 p.m. on January 24th, and the house was quiet, and he went in, thought people might have been playing hide and seek with him, called downstairs, didn't get an answer, called upstairs, didn't get an answer, went upstairs, found the bedroom door locked, unlocked it with his key, went in, saw some blood there, saw the window was open, ran downstairs, and he saw his wife, Lindsay, lying there semi-conscious. And he said, his first question was, "What did you do?" And her response was, "I tried to kill myself." Now, I thought that if she had actually experienced this command hallucination, that she might have said something like, "I did what I had to do," or "I did what the voice said," or something like that. But no, she said, "I tried to kill myself."
She didn't say exactly what I imagined she might have said. I'm like, this is so into speculative at this point, and so into, like, earlier I thought this guy was doing much better, and now that he's trying to lay out his arguments, it's like, well, I have this stereotype about how this might have gone down, and it's not, it didn't happen exactly the way I imagined it. And I'm like, dude, this isn't scientific. This isn't expertise. This is, yeah.
And this is consistent with my looking at this and starting from the perspective of, this is a serious.
The justice system really needs to crack down on experts and basically purge the experts whose role in things is just like, I'm going to give you some vibes and my personal take on shit. The standard for expertise should be actual, like, this is scientifically demonstrable, not just, I has some vibes.
Highly lethal suicide attempt. And that's the way to understand it. And then the last bullet point has to do with the recovery.
Wait. Let's go back here.
And starting from the perspective of, this is a serious, highly lethal suicide attempt. And that's the way. I tried to kill myself. And this is consistent with my looking at this and starting from the perspective of, this is a serious, highly lethal suicide attempt. And that's the.
Oh, well, that's not what the prosecution has been arguing this entire freaking trial, because this prosecution has been arguing that it's not a serious or highly lethal attempt, and that, in fact, she's been faking it, like that it's a half-assed fake attempt. So, weird. I put this guy into the same box as, like, the people out there on TikTok thinking that Patrick did it.
Way to understand it. And then the last bullet point has to do with the recovery of memories. So when she regained consciousness that night in the hospital, one of the things she said is that she wasn't able to remember what had happened. And she was informed of it. But if this had been a genuine memory loss, then human memory is funny. And one of the things that happens is that when you're trying to remember something that actually happened, things can interfere with that. Things that you read, things that you're told, other sorts of things like that. So
that is accurate.
It would have been hard to understand how she would recover that memory accurately, including the particular memory of the command auditory hallucination when it said.
I mean, just because memory is fallible doesn't mean people can't remember things. Okay, like, he's like, memory's funny, you know, sometimes it gets contaminated, so I don't see how she could have possibly remembered a thing. Like, I remember the sandwich I had for dinner. I think.
And doctor, did you already go over the first bullet point, the inconsistencies in her description of knowing wrongfulness?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one. Go to the next slide.
Okay, you don't have that's not a consider.
We're gonna watch that again.
And doctor, did you already go over the first bullet point, the inconsistencies in her description of knowing wrongfulness?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one. Go to the next slide.
Okay, you don't have that's not a consideration.
Well,
He knows this is improper. He knows what she's getting at. And wait for it. Wait. This is why the mistrial with prejudice should have been given. And the other thing is this notion that you can just pass on a question. You can't pass on a fucking question.
Okay, you don't have that's not a consideration.
yeah, I'm gonna
The first bullet point, the inconsistencies in her description of knowing wrongfulness.
yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one. Go to the next slide.
Okay, you don't have
You don't get to pass, but B, the reason why he's like, I'm going to pass on this is that this is clearly she's trying to get into prejudice. Like she's trying to get into prejudicial shit.
that's not a consideration.
And she's going to demand it from him.
There were some additional inconsistencies in terms of whether she knew that when I asked her whether she was aware that it was illegal or immoral, she said basically, I wasn't thinking about this at all. No thoughts, no decisions, none of that. It was just all action. One of the things that Dr. Resnick wrote in his report is that she was intellectually aware that it was wrong or illegal, but not morally. And what she said to me is that I just don't think I wasn't thinking about that at all. I didn't know any of that.
And if we could go to the next slide, I think if you could describe for us the evidence that you saw for suicide combined with altruistic filicide.
Yeah. Altruistic filicide is a term that's used that means killing your kids out of love, not because you're trying to be cruel or for material gain or because you want them out of your lives or any of that, but killing them out of love so that you could basically, they wouldn't have to suffer, so you could prevent their suffering. And what she did, I thought, was begin with what I said a minute ago was a hot.
Does anyone else want to like staple this guy's glasses to his head, or else take his glasses and like put them on the desk away from him? Because the glasses on, glasses off, you know, it's like, so can we get through a sentence without removing and replacing our glasses?
Suicide attempt.
And that was preceded
It
by
was preceded by months of thoughts and impulses about you should harm yourself, you should kill yourself, your brain is damaged, that sort of thing. And that, I think, is the beginning of the way to understand what happened that day. The second point is that, as I've said before, she didn't like to leave her children. Whether that was for date night or school or going back to work or anything, she did not like to leave her children. And if she had taken her own life, then her children would have been without her, and she thought that they would suffer. And she'd been having these thoughts both about herself and about her children over a several-month period. And the other thing that I will say is that she was in pain. She was suffering. She was doing a little bit better than she had been before she went into McLean, but she was still in pain. She was suffering. I think she was even desperate. And that is something that is often characterized as people who try to take their own life. They're in pain, they're suffering, and they're trying to put a stop to it. And I think when she decided at some point that she was going to put a stop to it, then she had to answer the question of what to do about the kids. And she didn't want to leave them. And she was convinced that they would suffer without her.
For the next slide. And further evidence that you saw for the suicide combined with altruistic filicide?
There was. One of the things that she said when asked about what happened is that in the course of strangling each child, she said,
Here it comes, folks. It's coming real soon.
Go to God, baby, go to God. And that was part of her expectation, that she and the children would be together in heaven with God. She was raised as a Catholic, and this, as I understand Catholic considerations, that's not necessarily what happens. But when I asked her about that, when I said, isn't suicide a mortal sin?
Yeah, can I see counsel over here?
All right. Now, if I was the judge here, I would have some very strong feelings. Let's go back to see what he just said.
What happens? But when I asked her about that, when I said, isn't suicide a mortal sin?
Yeah, can I see counsel over here?
I know what I'd be doing right now. My response right now, if I was the judge, would have been, prosecutor, tell me why there shouldn't be a mistrial with prejudice. And this better be fucking good. And yeah, this is ridiculous. And the judge is a candy ass. The judge wusses out. Judge has no balls. Because what the issue is that the judge doesn't want to declare a mistrial with prejudice because this is a nationally televised murder trial. And that's exactly why you should. Because the prosecutor is pulling this shit knowing that the judge won't declare a mistrial with prejudice, so she gets to get away with it. I mean, that's my feeling on what the prosecutor's doing here. So if you don't put a stop to it, they keep doing it. And like, if I was the judge, I would have just, it would have been like, okay, I am declaring a mistrial with prejudice. I am specifically noting that I think that this is the prosecutor's fault. And prosecutor, if you're still employed at the end of this, then I will be shocked at the DA in your division. Because quite frankly, if I was the DA, she'd be fired after shit like that. I would not put up with that shit if, from people under me. But what do? They go to a sidebar. And so we get to see the wonderful seal of Massachusetts for a good long while. And then they come back on the record and it is without the jury. So I can tell you, if I was a lawyer in Massachusetts, I'd run for DA. I don't want to be the DA. I'd just be like, my entire campaign is just this person has to lose and somebody's got to make it happen.
Your Honor, for the purpose of the record, we return back to the trial of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, excluding the jury.
All right. After the following sidebar conference, I think the defendant made a motion. I'm going to allow argument in regards to the motion. I'll hear first from the defendant, and then I will hear from the Commonwealth. Mr. Ray.
I can tell you there is a lesser penalty I would have considered for that. So I see this question. Runkel, for those of us not totally paying attention, can you explain what was done that should result in mistrial? The witness, who almost certainly was prepped by the prosecution, and who specifically jumped over a previous question hinting at this, was like, well, suicide is a mortal sin. So let's see what the judge does, and then I'll tell you where I'd be deciding between.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, this has been obviously a long trial and a lot of work on the part of everybody involved, from the court to the staff to the prosecutors to myself, and needless to say, the strain on Lindsay Clancy. I have to move for mistrial reluctantly. The reason is that this is intentional misconduct on the part of the prosecution. You know that this whole idea of injecting Roman Catholic faith, the concept of mortal sin, into this trial occurred, I don't even remember now, about a week ago. And I objected, but before I could get the objection out, Your Honor had us at the sidebar at the same time and very forcefully, in my opinion, indicated to the jurors that they should not consider that to any degree. At the time, I put on record the fact that I did not feel that I felt that the court's instructions were sufficient. They were forceful. They were right on point. And we moved forward without a motion for a mistrial. I made a tactical decision. But unfortunately, at this point, it's a concern I have because this is just over the top. It's the same thing again, talking about religion, talking about heaven, talking about killing people and the impact or the effect that it would have on Lindsay as well as her children. The fact that this is not the first time that it occurred during the trial, and the prosecution has previously brought up the concept of mortal sin.
And it's weird how the same exact language keeps coming up, right? Like, this part is not in front of the jury. This is outside the jury.
Based on your ruling in the past, in conjunction with the fact that they brought it up again, I believe it was intentional misconduct, and I feel that the court should grant a motion for mistrial.
All right, thank you. Kamala?
Thank you, Your Honor. The question I asked the witness did not ask for any testimony about religion, about Catholicism, about mortal sins, or anything like that. And
okay, right now I would have stopped her and said, okay, are you fine? Like, counsel, are you fine with us having a voir dire into your witness prep? Also, I kind of feel like you should get up and testify about what you did and didn't prep this witness for, and that you are now a witness in this trial. So let's talk about that, would have been my first response.
the slide is still up on the screen. There's nothing on the slide about Catholicism, about mortal sins, about any of that. The witness was explaining his reasoning. I don't think it was intentional on part of the witness either. If we look at
What, you think the witness accidentally specifically articulated a theory around mortal sin? Fuck off.
his interview of Ms. Clancy, one of the things that this witness has to do is determine whether the defendant knew the wrongfulness of her conduct. And that can be either that it was criminally wrong or morally wrong. And he explored that with her in the interview and asked her about whether she knew it was legally wrong. And she said she had no concept of legal consequences. And then he went on to ask her about moral wrongfulness and about her religion and whether she knew it was morally wrong. And she did say that she had knowledge that suicide was considered sinful. So I believe that's where the witness was going in trying to explain his reasoning. I don't think he was intentionally trying to inflame the jury or cause an issue in this case. I know I certainly wasn't, because I didn't ask a question about her religion or a question that would invoke that kind of response. I asked him to explain what was on the slides, and that's.
Yeah, I don't believe this shit at all. I'm sorry, I just don't. Sorry, little Bo Creep. I'm not feeling it.
It's not on the slides. So there was no intentional conduct by the Commonwealth. That was not where I intended to go with this questioning. And I don't think that the witness intended to do any harm either. He was just explaining his rationale. So I would ask that the jury be instructed to disregard the answer, and I can speak to the witness and tell him not to talk about that reasoning for behind his thoughts, that he can testify about his conclusions, but to leave that portion of his reasoning out of his testimony.
Well, here's a concern I have, is what the witness did say in regards to go to God, baby, go to God. That was statements that had been made in evidence already. And then he indicated that was part of her expectation, that she and the children would be together in heaven with God. All right. Now we're getting a little closer to problematic area. Then he testified she was raised as a Catholic. And as I understand Catholic considerations, that's not necessarily what happens. How is any of that proper at this point? But it was not. Well, I'm not going to declare a mistrial this time. What I am going to do is I'm going to bring the jury in. I'm going to tell them to disregard it. I'm going to tell them that's an inappropriate area of inquiry, and that this witness's understanding of Catholic dogma or Catholic teaching is irrelevant.
Oh, what a big fucking thing. I'm sorry, I would have declared the mistrial with prejudice. And if I wasn't going to declare the mistrial with prejudice, if I was going to impose a lesser sanction, it wouldn't just be, well, I'm going to give the jury a talking to. The lesser penalty I would have imposed here would have just been to say, okay, I'm going to bring the jury back in and I'm going to tell them to disregard this witness entirely. This witness is done. And I am going to tell the jury that everything he said should be disregarded. Every single word from hello to goodbye. And that's it. But this whole thing of like, I'm just going to give him a little talking to, that'll be fine. I'm like, no, sorry. You have to crack down on prosecutorial misconduct. It's just the fact that that the court is so less willing to toss stuff out because it's a serious charge and because, like, I'm sorry. If we are not willing to actually stand up for the rules, then the rules don't mean anything. And the rules should be most enforced on a serious charge like this, not least. Judge, if this was a shoplifting, you'd have thrown this out by now. I mean, I don't see that the court would not have thrown this out if this was a shoplifting. So why are we putting a different standard to it just because it's more serious?
There's no evidence of his background or training or having been to the seminary or any of that. And so I think, and that's where he injected that.
And I mean, would it matter? This guy could be Jesus himself. And it wouldn't fucking matter to me, right? It's not relevant to this particular thing. So even if he's standing in a pillar of light and is, like got the full stigmata going on, it doesn't matter. This is improper.
And so I am giving that, but the Commonwealth, I'm going to strongly, and perhaps the strongest language, talk to him and let him know that he can't go into that. And then my thought is, I'm going to bring the jury back in. I'm going to give them that instruction, and I'm going to send them home. I don't want them leaving here today with the last thing they heard was a discussion about this witness's understanding of the Catholic teaching. That's not the last thing they're going to hear. And so my thought is that as best I can is to address that and minimize the damage or prejudice, because I do presume that this jury will be able to follow those instructions.
We should stop presuming that. Juries are not nearly as good at following these instructions as the courts like to pretend. Can Reddington come back in the morning with a stronger argument for mistrial with case law and stuff? Probably not. I don't think he's going to go back on this decision unless the prosecutor does it again. And if the prosecutor does it again, quite frankly, no.
And so that would be my thought. We'll come back. That will give the Commonwealth plenty of time to talk to this witness, to let him know the areas that he should and should not go into. And then we can come back tomorrow and we can resume his direct examination and cross-examination. All right. So,
I mean, the usual legal phrase is you can't unring the bell. EDD's phrase of choice is you can't put the shit back in the horse. And my typical phrase for this is you can't unfuck this dog. Why are all my favorite law tubers pro Lindsay Clancy? I feel like this is a Twilight Zone. I'm not pro Lindsay Clancy. I am pro the way the law should be. And, following the law leads me to this should be a not guilty by reason of insanity. That's my read on how this case should be. What's it? That is a horrible turn of phrase, Runkle. Fair.
That'll be my thought. We'll bring the jury in. I'll give them that instruction, and then we will recess until tomorrow. Okay.
Senior Honor, just for the record, could I note an objection?
Sure, absolutely. All right, so we ready for the jury?
All right, so let's hear his big admonishment. Oh, I mean, if I was the judge and if she said that in closing, I would stop her mid-close to be like, counsel, I want to see you. And I want, we're going to mistrial with prejudice now. Whatever happened to can't put toothpaste back in the tube?
All rise. Jurors enter. This court's now in session. Please be seated.
Also, I set a new goal for a rant about UPS because UPS freaking sucks. And yeah. So I see people talking about green dress. I'm trying to figure out who that is or what the deal is there. So there's Bob. We like Bob. Is that green dress over at the back there? Is that who we're talking about? Or is that somebody else? Who are we talking? Oh,
All right.
further
I
back.
just want to.
Oh, her. Okay, I see what you're talking about. Oh, throw her ass out.
Court, all rise. Jurors enter.
Oh yeah, I'd toss her ass out, winking at the camera like that. Nope, goodbye. She's media? Fucking gross.
This court's now in session. Please be seated.
Your Honor, the purpose of the record will return back to the trial. Commonwealth Justice Clancy, all parties are present, including the defendant and including the 18 jurors.
All right. Well, members of the jury, just before we broke, there was some testimony from that last witness. And I just want to give you some instructions in regards to that testimony. And I just wanted to let the religion that the defendant was raised with is absolutely an inappropriate area of testimony. It is to be stricken. It is not to be considered. I can't be any more clear of that. It cannot be considered. Secondly, the witness's understanding of Catholic teachings and considerations, again, is immaterial. It's irrelevant. It is to be disregarded based on that testimony. All right. And so because we had a little bit of a delay due to this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to excuse you until tomorrow. All right. And so the thought is we'll come in, we'll finish up with this witness. I believe the Commonwealth has another witness at that point, and then we'll talk about where we go. I apologize for any kind of confusion or delay.
I'd love to hear what she explained, but yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure you had those instructions with you when you left here today. All right? So I'm sorry, so I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Court, all rise. Jurors, can I close the notebooks?
I'm sorry, that's sufficient? Like we're calling that enough to correct the the problem here? I'm not calling that enough. I do not think it's enough. It's on JSTV. I'm not going to another channel at this point. I'm going back to my room to sleep. So either explain it or don't, but I'm not going to go watch. I can't go watch like an hour-long video or some shit. I don't have the time. So, but yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's bad. Like, I'm not saying JSTV is good or bad. I don't think I've ever watched it, but I don't have the time to go looking for that. So, what is it? Is ending the day with those instructions just highlighted the witness testimony, not belittled it. Jurors walk away with it stuck in their heads. I think it needed a little bit more. Need a little bit more. Did I catch a trout yet? Nope. I have not caught shit. All right. So let's cover the super chats here, and then we will wrap up. Brentwood Chic, Professor Runkle. Kind of. It's weird. I've got students. They seem to think I'm doing a good job. So, yeah, I am feeling a bit sick though. So it's a good thing I got the day off tomorrow. Corgi Grandma for the Bow of the Month Club. I am not actually going to do that, but it's funny. Harbinger of imminent death regarding granting a mistrial is the reasonable case to make for and against, or is one POS or position unreasonable? It seems very prejudicial, even if accidental. I mean, I can see a case for it, but I think that the argument is not. I don't think that what the judge did is sufficient to address the problem here. I just don't. So yeah. Haha, get some miso. I would love some miso, but I am in a small town where there is no miso. Yeah, there just is no miso here to be had. So, all right. What do you call it? Johnny Madrid, congrats on the first few days in your new job. Yeah, I hope I'm not getting sick. Shanta, sounds fine. Vid is good. He's not home, guys. I will try to figure out what the echo is. It took me a while to get the sound functional so that you could hear the thing. And yeah. It's me, Tony P. I can't wait for the spice, Professor Runkle. Yeah. Just how small town is this? The gas station here has miso. The gas station here does not have miso. Like, let me see what the population is here. Just pulling it up on Wikipedia. Population. Population is 3,000 people. So I don't know what the critical mass is for getting miso, but it's more than 3,000. Did we do the knife sharpening story? We haven't, but maybe I could. Maybe we could anyway. So yes. Momo Shark, appreciate your time and commentary. Thank you. Appreciate you. I guess we can do the knife sharpening story and the UPS story when we get to the end of the super chats here. Harbinger of imminent death. If you could pro hoc in one attorney to handle one witness or motion argument, which attorney and where would you use them? What's his name from the Uvalde trial? And against this witness. So yeah. If Lindsay Clancy loses, she's got great grounds for appeal, right, Runkle? Yep. Yep. Yes, Nico LaHood. I would bring Nico LaHood in for this witness. What is it? If I'm on the jury, I already don't trust this guy. That's Mack. He answered 3 questions out of 3 so far, either entirely or starting with a qualifier. I don't think he answered a question straight at all. Big Apple, who's your bribe to join MATA? I will have to set that up some other time. I like MATA a lot. Joanna Laura, PhD, thank you and hope you feel better. Thank you. Nisir K, in general, why in 2026 are old bald men deciding women's postpartum issues? Have a baby and see how you feel. I don't really agree with the notion that you can't hear or try a case based on, whatever, your gender, etc. But I mean, some of how, I don't know. Mack doesn't come off very well. He doesn't come off as a person who is considerate or caring or any of that. Vez from Quebec, do I have go for the 15th? Yes, we'll make it work. Burberries, the company does have a forensic psych whose specialty is perinatal and women's mental health, and said we got Mack. I wonder if she didn't agree. I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out. Rolling along, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Shanta, jealous, not lol. Have a drink on me after the stream. Thank you for figuring out a live setup for us. My live setup is pretty janky, but it worked. What is it? I'm not going to have a drink. I do have some chicken soup in the trunk of my car. I'm going to make the chicken soup, I think. So that'll be my that'll be what I'll do. Jake Allen, only wrong answers. Why is Runkle, or why Runkle is where he is right now? Love it. Just because I like my notes to be celibate. Okay, I get. Shanta, so many WTFs in this case. Shredding this Matt quack made my day, and hearing you swear as much as I do, you're hilarious. I probably should rein it back a bit. I'm getting too casual or too comfortable. Dina Kawaji, thank you so much. Hope, Mr. Egg. Oh my God, LMAO fan from Michigan. Why is it that Massachusetts has so many eggs? He'd be Dr. Robotnik if he was rocking a stash. I don't think he can rock a stash, though. So, yeah, I don't think he can. Jody Sai, men like Mack are exactly the reason why the cracks in women's mental health care are so wide. He'll probably deny postpartum psychosis after 4 weeks till his last day. Yeah. West Coast Magic, thank you so much. Julie Guthridge, going to Canada from Australia next time for the first time. Whereabouts? Because Canada's a big country. Mary Smith, I almost feel bad. How do you remedy that cross? They tried, they didn't. I am of the school of thought that I almost never do a redirect. And the reason why I almost never do a redirect is because usually you just make shit worse. Worst part of this trial is remembering this refrigerator in a suit and bow exists every time she opens her mouth to testify. Ask questions. All right. And I see Pupper Swoop able to lift our spirits. I love those puppers. Mrs. Runkle was claiming that Zora was looking for me, so that is sweet. Neveas Epialis, I'm here to further a goal, then return to the replay crew. Longtime worker, thanks for all the content. Makes the dull workdays way better. Thank you so much. Stephanie Bachman, am I the only one who thought Heilbert made good points? He does make some good points, but he also undermines himself later on. Tonka Toy, Dr. Helbrin is referring to notes at the start of his testimony. I thought that wasn't allowed. Is it different for experts? A little bit, but I mean, Reddington isn't sitting up for a lot of stuff, so yeah, it just isn't. The Miss Monty, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Pretty fly for a Wi-Fi. Thanks for making Monday night fun. Thank you. GRB Chaser, 4 things. 1, he refers to we instead of giving his own account. 2, he plays hide the info with his slideshow. 3, prosecution totally had to know it was coming. 4, videos now and evidence to impeach. Yeah. Hawk Banana, no. I was led to believe Runkle didn't expect to stream tonight, so my tardiness isn't my fault. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to, but I set things up. Laura Liani, he got to the postpartum psychosis defense is arguing, then didn't seem totally successful disproving it to me. The 80% he mentions equals 20% reasonable doubt. Thanks. Yeah, 20% would be reason. So, yeah. What is it? To Forlane, thank you for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Pamela DeCamel, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Strolled, thank you for becoming a member. And that looks like a pretty solid suit. I like it. Laura Mont, didn't defense ask Resnick if he knew that a Commonwealth expert used his research in his analysis? And Resnick answered yes, and that was his old outdated research. Think it's this guy they were referring to? Might be. So, DSN, thank you for the gifted membership. Much appreciated. That's so Jessica. Thanks for keeping me company while sewing. Thank you for being here. Aurora Demeza, hi, hello, good to see you. The Phoenix Paw, you can kill with love others and it is suicide. It's complicated. Random unbranded commenter, she's doing this for drama and is performing. The judge should respond in kind with a public admonishment, sanctions, bar complaint, and contempt. Prosecutors almost never face real consequences for shit. Pammers, the judge was big mad. I hope the jury gets it. I think the jury is getting yeah. Bird Mad Girl, I was desperate for this witness to stop torture. Well, he's back tomorrow. Hawk Banana, no, I can't save your whole goal, but please don't cut yourself for likes. I'm not cutting myself. What? Random unbranded commenter, jury instruction I'd give. The prosecutor has repeatedly engaged in misconduct and attempted to mislead. You may consider that in your deliberation. I think that is probably the wrong answer because I think that would probably just open things up worse. Hunk Banana, no, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. SoCal Mama, wish Reddington would have pointed out how the Commonwealth insisted on the line of questioning. No way they didn't know his theory thought process. I absolutely think, yeah. EDB would like an input on KD interviews and Higgins. I will have to figure that out. EDB hasn't reached out to say what she's looking for, but I'll try to look at some of that stuff. So I'll try to figure out what I should be talking about. Victor Man, have your students encountered any runkleisms yet? I'm trying to keep it to a dull roar. I'm not always succeeding. Patricia, you're not allowed to get sick. I'm going to try my best. Busy Mama, because we here in Canada hate you, Ian Uncle. Fair. Jake Callahan, let me know a place to send you miso. 3-year aged barley, it's the best. I don't know that I have a place to send things yet here where I am. I'm at a hotel-ish weird place. So I don't know if I can I don't know if I can actually get like a package here. I'm gonna have to ask them about that at some point. So maybe I could have it sent to work. I'll have to figure that out. MBD, get well soon. Hi from BC. Hello. Polite one, chaplain and go to God baby, fair testimony. Why? There's a line because some of this is relevant for the mental health considerations and some of it is, yeah. You can still send me, what is it? You can still send me stuff to like the address that's in the about section, but that'll reach me in like at home. So yeah, may need to try that Fat Unicorn Bar and Grill. Lac La Biche also has an awesome farmers market Friday afternoons. I'm leaving Thursday. Going back home Thursday, so I'm gonna miss it. I have gone to the Fat Unicorn. It's actually pretty good. I don't mind the Fat Unicorn at all. So that I think is all of that. All right, let's wrap things up here. I will see you guys maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, maybe yeah, we'll have to figure it out. Right now, I need to get some sleep or at least lay down. So I'm really starting to feel it. And I don't know if I'm starting to look it, but I'm really starting to feel it. So yeah, I'm gonna pack up all my stuff here. Oh, I owe you guys stories. Before we go, I owe you guys stories. So first, the knife sharpening story. So at this place I'm at, the sort of hostile kind of accommodations, the knives are awful. And so I brought my own knives, but I also wanted to make sure that the knives there are not quite as awful. So I brought up a sharpening machine and I just went into the kitchen and I just started sharpening the knives. So I have now the knives are really shit. Like they're really shit brand of knives. So I put an edge on them, but it's not fantastic. It's not a laser edge. But they're better. And so hopefully other people appreciate that. And yeah, they're basically this this. They're Walmart knives. And yes, I did post a note. The note says, caution, less dull. Because I wasn't super impressed with the knives even after sharpening them. So it's less dull and not sharp. Lady Tanya in Texas, get the soup out of the trunk, Ruckle. You don't want to let us episode. It's dry soup. Like it's instant soup mix. So it's not going to turn into anything. The Miss Monty, thank you so much. The other one is the, and all the other people who are staying at the hotel are my students. So they know exactly what kind of weird I am. Michigan Farm Boy, support for goal. How do we correct poor understanding of stats by judges, lawyers, and experts, let alone the public? I have no idea. Wish I knew. The other one I promised was the UPS story. Also, Heidi, thank you for the PayPal. I saw that just now. So thank you so much for that. I wanted to make sure I noted the appreciation there. The UPS story. So I have some stuff coming from UPS that requires a signature, and it was coming today. So I was like, cool, I'm not going to be there to sign for it. And Mrs. Runkle is also not going to be there to sign for it. So I went and asked UPS to move the shipment to Friday. And they're like, okay, we can do that. And they charged me $7 to move the shipment to Friday. I have a notification now that they tried to deliver it today, even though they took my payment to move it to Friday. And so instead, it is being held at a UPS thing. And hopefully they don't send it back before I get there. So I'm going to be super pissed, and I'm going to be like, hey, can I get my $7 back? Where's my $7? You took $7 to move it to Friday. You didn't move it to Friday. So, yeah. Do your students know you have a YouTube channel yet? Yes, they do. I don't know that any of them watched it, but I think they know. They're a really good group of students. I'm really, I haven't had a bad group of students doing this, but they're a really good group of students. And yeah, I think they're pretty sharp, pretty smart, So yeah. Anyway, I am gonna let you go. Good night, all, and see you soon. Someone says, "Oh, they're probably watching tonight." Probably not. I'm not the guy who can make them run, but there's other people who can make them run, and they do make them run. And so they were doing a lot of running and push-ups and burpees and all of that. So I'm betting they're sleeping already. So yeah. All right. Good night, all, and see you soon.